Welcome to Professor GSK Social Laboratory presents webinar series on social thinking. In this series, this is our first webinar series, and for that we are having a very big personality of research from Madras Institute of Development Studies. He is a very close friend of mine for a long time, and we have been associated for more than almost several years. So whenever something we think of getting consultancy on water, agriculture, rural development, the very first person I reach out is Dr. Sivasubramanian. Such a big exposure he is having in this particular domain. Dr. K.Sivasubramanian, basically an economist, and he has been working with MIDS since Madras Institute of Development Studies since 1986 in different capacities, from assistant professors to now he is being a professor there. And before he joins the faculty in MIDS in 2001, he worked in two major projects since 1993. The first one is management of small water bodies in India, funded by Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India, headed by Professor Vaidyanathan. And the other one, local options for water supply and conservation management, funded by the International Development Research Center, Canada, headed by Professor S. Janagarajan. Again, Janagarajan is a big personality known for his deliberations and research contributions in water related aspects in India. He's a very big, I know him personally also. And Dr. Sivasubramanian was an ICSR Doctor Fellow, and he published a lot of research article. And previous day, the day before yesterday, his article on water related aspect, the water conservation, is actually published in one of the Tamil daily newspaper called Dinamani. As such a wide reader and a writer in magazines, newspapers, and research papers, and he is actually an asset to not only to the MIDS, and he is an asset to this country in terms of the research contribution what he is making in the field of water and its related aspects. So we are happy to have Dr. K.Sivasubramanian from MIDS for our first webinar in the series of webinar series on social thinking. Now let's hand over the session to Dr. K.Sivasubramanian. Enjoy the session. I will meet you again during the Q&A session. Thank you. Dr. Sivasubramanian, you can take it forward from now. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Satish Kumar, for your very effective introduction. And also good morning to all members of the webinar participants. So I am very happy to present today's webinar on necessity for water conservation. So I think in the next 1 to 1.5 hours, we can deliberate a lot of things related to water, because I am specialized only water, so it may be much more useful. So let us start. Before going into directly the water related aspects, we have to think of India in the world situation. We can take the 5 leading developed countries of the world, and what is our India's position in that? You can see this in the globe. There are 254 countries. This is based on the GDP of top 5 leading nations. You can see in 2019-20, USA is, its GDP is 22.3 trillion US dollars, and 1 trillion is equal to 1 lakh crores. Especially if we see our Indian context, it may be 75 lakh crore rupees, 1 trillion. So the next big nation is the China. Even though it is developing, it is the second nation, 15.7 trillion. Japan 5.4, Germany 4.5, and India is 3.3. These are the 5 biggest leading nations doing the highest GDP in the 2019-20 year. So what is the importance of this? So annually, India's GDP grows at the maximum of 0.3%. So why I am telling is, you might have heard that our Honorable Prime Minister Modi's vision is India has to achieve 5 trillion GDP economy. To what extent is this is possible? That is my question. So that is what I have analyzed to some extent. So that is what I am bringing up now here. So annually, India's GDP is growing at the rate of 0.3%. So it takes at least 6 years if the tempo is maintained steadily to reach 5 trillion. So what are the main constraints? The main constraints behind the slow growth of our nation are poor investment. We are also getting the foreign direct investment from many countries. So that is what we are poor. Resource underutilization, that we have to see in the rainfall, land, water, so many things we are not effectively utilizing. Heavy debt. Our debt position is very high. That every time we are seeing that giving even for interest itself is a bigger thing. Overpopulation. This is what much more difficult thing that we are seeing. Our population is 136 crores, but actually what is required is 70 crores. So double the population we are having. And inadequate infrastructure, road, bridge, irrigation, so many things. It is not up to enough. And 6th, continuous neglect of agriculture in recent decades. That is, if 2017, our GDP investment for agriculture is 0.3%, and 2018 it is 0.8%, and 2019 it is 1% of the GDP we have marked for our agriculture. But it is very, very, very poor. As a result, more than 50% of farmers follow survival agriculture. Our agriculture is not yet modernized. So these are the constraints behind which we have to work. Now you have simply see what is happening in the 20 important nations in which I have given data for 5 nations. Population, area in square kilometer, and density of the population, and what is that is what 2020 last column, if you see what is the GDP. You can see from this table that India's population density 414 is the highest among the top 10 countries of the world. Next follows is the Japan, that is 370 people per square kilometer. So Germany's population is a little more than Tamil Nadu population, whereas UK's population is less than the Tamil Nadu population. Little less, that's all. The GDP of UK and India are nearly equal to each other. As per the existing situation, 1 trillion US dollar growth requires a minimum of 3 to 4 years in the Indian context. So in India, the current GDP is 3.3 trillion annual turnover. So for better GDP growth, highly skilled population is required. That is lacking in India. But what we are seeing, only migrant workers are moving. They are the more number. The positive aspect of younger population will not serve the purpose unless full employment for all of them is realized. The expectation is that the youngest population can induce consumer items purchase such as cars, homes, etc. If they get full employment, automatically the economy will grow. Since majority of these younger population are unemployed, how the nations will grow? This is my question. That is what I have to say specifically. So, setting the focus. Relating to GDP of 5 leading nations in 2020, what we are getting. So, the world has 254 nations. Data available are 193, and 20 are considered prime of the world development based on their GDP. So, in most of the developing countries like India, agriculture is the base. Employment opportunities mostly depend on the agriculture sector. So, 2 aspects in agriculture are important. One is increasing the irrigated area, and 2, strengthening of agro-based industries throughout India. The former is for agricultural development and the latter is for rural development, that is employment generation. So if these two aspects are successfully created, more employment in rural areas is possible that provide adequate income to masses, which lead to India a developed nation. This is what we have to talk before starting our water. Yes, so we have seen to what extent India is fitting in the world countries, especially in the top 10 countries. Now we are talking mostly Indian context and Tamil Nadu context, especially water. So now you can see this chart, annual hydrological cycle. This may be very, very interesting chart you can think of and you get more clarifications. If you have doubt, you can ask at the final time. You see the total available global water potential. You can see first, the world is made up of two portions. One is ocean and another one is earth. The ocean is 71% of the area and the earth has 29% of the area. But you see the brackish water, that is 97.4% is available on oceans that could not be directly usable. However, the earth that has 29%, but its water supply, available water supply is only 2.64%. This is where we have to think of more. The earth has only 2.64%, but it is not directly usable. So this 2.64%, again you have to see 100%. If you see 100%, take 100%, 75% is in polar glaciers. That is North Pole, South Pole. This is icebergs. You cannot use that. So again, 22.6% goes to the deep groundwater. Deep groundwater in the sense it is not for 1 or 2 kilometers. It may be 50 kilometer, 100 kilometer or 1000 kilometer deep of our earth. So this also cannot be utilized. So what is the remaining thing? This 2.6%. Again 2.4% of this 2.6%. So very little portion is actually available on earth for our utilization. So this 2.4% is available in rivers, lakes, exploitable underground aquifers is calculated as 1 lakh cubic kilometer. This is the water potential available in the world. So what is happening? The global hydrological cycle, if you see, the annual precipitation is 1 lakh cubic kilometer. Immediately when it falls on the ground, it goes for evaporation as 60%, that is 60,000 cubic kilometer, and the runoff percolation, that is for 40,000 cubic kilometer. So you can see this 40,000 cubic kilometer is finally usable in the world context. So where it goes for runoff, percolation leads to groundwater storage, runoff leads to surface water through rivers, which finally reaches to sea. And again, storages in dams, small water bodies, canal, plus tank irrigation, plus remaining to sea. This is what the 40,000 cubic kilometer is made up of in the world. So what is India's case? If you see India's case, so it is 4,000 cubic kilometer. The world, when we compare to the world, it is 4% of the world supply, rainfall. In the world, 100% rainfall occurs. India has only 4% of water supply through annual precipitation. So again, 50% goes for evaporation. So this much goes, and only 49% precipitation is available for annual runoff. What it goes? This annual runoff 1953 cubic kilometer, in which two portions are there, two parts are there. One is surface water and another one is groundwater. 75% of this 1953 cubic kilometer is for surface water and 22% is made up of groundwater. But how the annual utilizable water? This much water is available, but how much we are utilizing? Utilizable, that is 690 cubic kilometer of surface water is usable for India. And in the case of groundwater, 396 cubic kilometer is possible for utilization. But actually, how much we are utilizing? You see, counting both, only 600 cubic kilometer we are using annually. This is 55% of annual utilizable water or 34% of the annual water resources. So this is the broader picture of what is happening all over the world and also India. Our main concern is we have a lot of population, so to feeding the population requires agricultural prosperity. For agriculture, irrigation is the base. So that is what I have to indicate. Our water supply is more, but our preservation, conservation, and making use of for agriculture is very limited. That is what we have to talk about. Now, you can see the natural source as rainfall is the base for this is available from southwest monsoon. Now we are day to day hearing from the news that Kerala, Karnataka, and Maharashtra are getting more of the monsoon. That is, southwest monsoon gives around 70 to 80% of the total water supply to India. That is from June to September. And northeast is for 3 months, October, November, December. This is only specifically available for Tamil Nadu. You can see northeast monsoon is a special monsoon, gives more rainfall to Tamil Nadu. That is the interesting thing. But except Tamil Nadu, all other states are getting most of the water from southwest monsoon. This is one of the important points. So from this rainfall, what happens? There are two surface irrigation systems. One is lakes and tanks, water is stored, and another one is canals and rivers. These two surface irrigation systems are maintained properly with 100% efficiency. We cannot bother about the water supply in India, but these are the very bad situation now. So along with the surface water supply, then we can see the groundwater. You see, the groundwater is mostly utilizable under our individual control, but these are for community level storages, and the government control is more for surface water, and groundwater is mostly by individuals. So this is the difference, and how the water sources are available that you can see from this tank, canal, wells, and other sources. Some smaller ponds and other things are considered other sources of irrigation. In Tamil Nadu, it is very less, and Karnataka, it is also more than tank irrigation. So that is what state to state it differs. Based on my nearly 4 decades of research on irrigation and practical experience, I have made 2 important hypotheses. I straight away tell our participants to think of these 2 hypotheses and test them wherever it is possible. That is the main point that I have to say. The first hypothesis that I made is the total quantum of rainfall available on the earth, both land area and surface area, is always equal to that of the total quantum of rainfall occurs every year, but it has its skewed distribution of quantum among regions. This means from January 1 to December 31st, the entire globe, including our sea and land area, sea surface and land area, the total quantum of rain occurs on the earth is equal. January to December 31st, whatever the quantum available in 1 year, the same quantum is available in all the years. Every year the same quantum, not even a single drop is differs. But what is the matter? Sometimes the earth has, that is land area has more water, and some years the sea surface gets more water. That is the biggest thing. As we have seen in this 71% of the area, this area gets more rainfall, this earth is affected because of water scarcity. But when the rainfall is less here and the rainfall is more, like what it is happening in Maharashtra, exact example, how people are suffering. But the ocean is not bothered, whatever water comes to the earth. But when high water goes here through rainfall, it is not a problem for the sea. Whether it is 1 day rain or 100 days rain, it is not. But the earth doesn't have adequate rain, we are suffering. That is, even the small quantum, people are making so much of problems. So that is the point. No depth of rainfall. Store rainwater in all possible ways and use it directly for all purposes. This is the first hypothesis inference. And the second hypothesis, this is for surface water, this is for groundwater. You see, the groundwater recharge is a function of the intensity of rainfall coupled with the capacity and availability of surface water system, either canal or tank in a region. So, if the where the groundwater comes, it is not directly from the sky, it won't go to the groundwater. First it comes to the earth and slowly it gets infiltration. So that is what, if more of the smaller level, lower showers, then the groundwater may be recharged slowly. But high intensity of rainfall will lead to seepage, and seepage less, but percolation is also less. And what it is mainly, I can say, this is runoff. Runoff is more. If high intensity of rainfall always makes a runoff more, and the groundwater recharge is very low. So that is why slow and steady rainfall will help for groundwater recharge. So the groundwater recharge is a function of intensity of rainfall coupled with the capacity and availability of surface water system. This is important because when canals, tanks, rivers are there, automatically the command area wells are getting more of water supply. So unless the surface water are getting filled up or getting maintained in a proper manner, groundwater level will be very low. So what shall we do? Store more rainwater by dams, tanks, and also divert it into rainfed areas. And two is raise infiltration capacities. That is what all possible ways that groundwater recharge programs are done by the central and state governments. So these are the best hypotheses. You can test it, and wherever students are interested, ask them to test in their locality. That is a very interesting thing. Now, this is a very good data that each one has to get access, and you can test it from your places. This table gives what is happening in India and Tamil Nadu in the past 65 years. I am giving this in decadal average, 1950s, 60s to 2010s. Our main concern is to compare this 1950s to 2010s. The 1950s 10 years and the latest 5 years. What is happening in the irrigated area? As you know, the irrigation is made up of from the four sources: canal irrigation, tank irrigation, well irrigation, and other sources. This is what possible in all over Indian states. In any state, if you take only these four sources of irrigation is possible. But it may be more in one source and less in other source. It differs slightly. But these are the basic sources. You can see what is happening. India to Tamil Nadu, canal irrigation, you see 91 lakh hectares in the 1950s. This has increased to 160 lakh hectares. This is percentage wise, if you see 41%, it is 24%. It is getting reduced. But in the case of Tamil Nadu, what is happening? But we can see all India, then it may be the good thing, then again we can go to Tamil Nadu. And the tank irrigation, if you see, this is 41 lakh hectares in the tanks in 1950s. That has gone down to 18.4. So the tank irrigation is declined, and well irrigation from 66 to 412. And other sources also, you see 23% to 75%. What is the main important point? The tank irrigation is declined continuously throughout this period, and well irrigation has gone up from 62 to 412 lakh hectares. And even other sources, it is increased from 23 to 73. What is Tamil Nadu's case? If you see, Tamil Nadu canal irrigation is 8 lakh, and the next decade it is 8.5, and another decade also maintained 8.9. But after that it gradually declined, and now it is only 6.8 lakh hectares. And the tank irrigation also declined 7.8. Next year, good. After that it declined. Now it is 4.2. It is only 40% of the registered ayakat of tanks in Tamil Nadu. And well irrigation also, you see 5 lakh hectares. Now it is 16.9. This is the very important point that I have to make all of you to think. in not only in India, but also in Tamil Nadu and also in all over the states of India, well irrigation is improving. How is it possible? When tank irrigation is getting declined all India level and also in Tamil Nadu and also in each state, if you take tank irrigation is declining. And the canal irrigation is also declining in most of the states, but overall it is increased. But in most of the states it is decreasing. So canal irrigation, tank irrigation is declined, but well irrigation is improved. Without getting water in the surface area, how groundwater is supplying more water? This is a tricky question, but our data system I am getting questioned because these two sources are getting supplied and that is used by the wells and they are telling well irrigation is supplying. But they are neglecting these two sources. This is what we have to think of. And other sources in Tamil Nadu, if you see 0.5 lakh hectares, now it is almost, it is getting depleted, it is vanishing. Now, another important point you can think of, the total net irrigated area. All the four canals, tanks, wells and other sources, the totally in the 1950s, 222 lakh hectares were irrigated in the 1950s, and this has enhanced to 3 times, it is 664 lakh hectares at all India level. What is happening in Tamil Nadu? It is 21 lakh hectares to 28 lakh, only 7 hectares, it is 7 lakh hectares, it is increased. And the second case, net sown area. I think you know what is net sown area, because net sown area is the total extent including irrigated and unirrigated or even a rainfed area, whatever the area it is sown without taking into account of irrigation status, that is called the sown area. The net sown area in India, you can see this is 270 in 1950s. This has reached to 1400 lakh hectares in 2010s. It is really increasing up to 1970s. After that, and the maximum is 1990s. After that, it is declined. But in the case of Tamil Nadu, 55 lakh hectares net sown area, but now it is 48. It is declined. So this 7 lakh hectares declined, but 7 lakh hectares increased. It is very, very little amount. That irrigation status in Tamil Nadu is very poor, and net sown area is also very poor. If you see from this graph, it is very easy to understand. This green line, this is the well irrigation. From the 1970s onwards, due to our green revolution, this starts in the mid 60s. The next 10 years, there has been a change, and that has started galloping for well irrigation. You see, this is the well irrigation from 1970s. But canal irrigation is stagnated and even declined all over. This is in Tamil Nadu picture. And tank irrigation is declining. That is what we are going to see. It is grossly, it is declining. But rainfall is the base. But rainfall is more. But this area is declining. So this is what. And other sources, you see, the other sources is almost getting vanished. So this is the picture from 1905 to 2015 in Tamil Nadu. But majority of the states, this picture may be slightly deviating, but this is the same. Now, my main point is two things. First, we have to thought of how this canal irrigation may be redistributed. I am giving one Kaveri canal, Kaveri irrigation system. This may be useful for both Karnataka people and also Tamil Nadu people. And next one, I go to tank irrigation. These two are enough for today's presentation. You see, and this is the latest development that I have made, because as a government policy, I am going to suggest based on our institute's publications. And you see, in Tamil Nadu, 31 districts. The latest bifurcated, I am 16, 17, 31 districts are there. I have divided, I have taken only Tamil Nadu major Kaveri, or 9 Kaveri basin districts are available, in which the first one, Tiruvarur and Tanjavur, Nagapattinam. These are the three major districts serving Kaveri Basin. What is the idea? If you see, sometimes the delta people, Nagapattinam, Thiruvarur, or even Tanjavur people are not getting enough water supply. As a result, people are lamenting, even though dam is there and Karnataka is not supplying water and agriculture is failed. So in order to remove these difficulties, what I suggest is this total area, this canal area, you can see the net zone area. This is 27% of these 9 districts, and net irrigated area by all sources 32%, and canals. Here the canals means Kaveri irrigation, that is only 70%. So this 70% percentage of area in which you can see these Thiruvarur and Nagapattinam gets the major share. That is 2.69 lakh hectares, and all others 2.2. So what I think is, these Thiruvarur and Nagapattinam may be given irrigation for 1 year, and next year the other 7 districts may be given 1 year. So it may be the entire Kaveri Delta system to be divided into 2, and Thiruvarur and Nagapattinam to be served for 1 year, and all other districts to be served for another 1 year. And in the second zone, the new seven districts, there have been a lot of areas still rain-fed. You can see this net zone area. This is what you can see, a lot of percentage. For column 5, canal irrigated area to net zone area. This is 96%, 79%. But below which you can see a lot of area is rain-fed. So even in the Kaveri Basin, many districts did not get the water supply. But there is possibility if canals are extended. So one more 1 lakh hectare to be extended in these 7 districts, and water from the Kaveri river may be given 1 year. So that is what these Thiruvarur and Nagapattinam for 1 year, and all other 7 districts plus 1 lakh more area to be included, and that has to be served for another district. So automatically canal irrigated area may be increasing, and year after year, one year and alternate year, water supply may be available without any failure. That is what. And storage may be maintained around 100 feet always in the Kaveri dam. And there are so many rules and regulations that I am framing. So once this is done successfully, all other rivers can also be taken in this type of irrigation type. This will enhance the irrigated area. So why we are maximum bothered about irrigated area? Because 5 to 6 acres of unirrigated land productivity is equal to 1 acre of irrigated productivity. That is, irrigated land produces more than unirrigated land. So that is why instead of cropping 4 or 5 acres of rainfed land, 1 irrigated acre automatically gives more of income to the farmer. That is the basic point. So if this pattern is followed, Tamil Nadu agriculture will become prosperous. For this, we are not begging anywhere from Karnataka to give any additional supply. Whatever supply available in the present context that the Supreme Court directs for this much, 205 TMC you have to start to Tamil Nadu, that is more than enough for our cropping through canal irrigation, and area will also be increased. This is what the short form of this canal irrigation details. And second thing we can do now, technology. This technology can be enhanced. Mere the old pattern of irrigation is not useful. Now you can see this is paddy. This is drip irrigated pad. These are the drip. So this drip irrigate, you see, when he is the farmer, one of the water user association farmer in Karur district. When I am working in the World Bank project, we have gone for evaluation. So how this farmer is doing is, in 1 hectare land, this drip irrigated paddy is grown through drip. It is like our open field, no water you can see, but this like our drip to our body, water is given through this drip for all these paddy seedlings. Generally, this one paddy crop gets 40 to 50 tillers. But here, this farmer is telling this is for 140 to 150 tillers. What does it mean? This means the productivity may be doubled than the normal level. He says that productivity is around 8.5 tons. Now our productivity in Tanjavur district is 2.5 to 3.5 tons per hectare. So this is more or less 3 times what he is reaping. So this is what the technology induced irrigation. The irrigation requirement is 60 to 70% less than this type of farming. This is also less SRI, but more than less in the sense we have to reduce so much in the normal paddy grown method. This is what important. And you can see this is for groundnut sprinkler irrigation. These are the technologies available, but even for usage of this, water is required. But in many wells, it is dried. That is why I am vehemently telling this canal supply may be distributed to all areas. At least one season if you give, so that may be useful for replenishing this groundwater. They can raise at least one full crop. That will help the small and marginal farmers to reap good harvest, and a good income is possible. Instead of paying 6,000 rupees to their bank, automatically they will crop. So that is the thing, but the government has to think of like our long experienced ideas. And this is the best and first type of irrigated, drip irrigated paddy. And this is the second important SRI cultivation. If you get 8.5 tons per hectare of productivity, you can get 6.6 to 6 to 7 tons per hectare. So this is also more. But normal paddy, we can get 3 to 4. That's all. In the maximum is 4.5 to 5 ton is the normal level. Highly talented farmers are reaping in Tamil Nadu. This is the state. But we have to think of this technology wherever the motor pump sets are there, and that we have seen the groundwater irrigation is more. So that may be used wherever it is possible. That is what agriculture department should think of all over India. Now, this is what canal irrigation is over. Now I am telling what is happening in tank irrigation. You can see tanks and kulam, kuttai, so many names are there. So that is what people, if you go and ask the villages, people are telling there is no rainfall. That is why our tanks are not filling up. This is the very bad comment. So now I have to prove, based on our data, in the past from 1950 to 2016, 67 years data, what is happening? This rainfall is not a factor for decline of tank irrigation. This is the main point I am proving. Now you can see in this number of tanks available in Tamil Nadu. This is given 40 hectares and more and 40 hectares less, and total number of tanks in column 5. And net irrigated by tank. Every year, how much area is irrigated. Then relate comparatively rainfall, June to September. Southwest monsoon, northeast monsoon, October to December, and winter and summer period, January to May, and June to May, annual rainfall, and 10 years average and 5 years average. When you see what is happening, what is the result? In the 1960s, the maximum tank irrigated area is 9.89. That is 1 million hectare is irrigated in Tamil Nadu. In that year, the annual rainfall is 960 millimeter, and October to December rainfall, that is the very important rainfall period. Southwest monsoon, northeast monsoon is much more required for tank irrigation in Tamil Nadu. That also you can see it is more or less 500 millimeter. And this is, and if you see the entire 1960s is the golden period for tank irrigation in Tamil Nadu, because it maintained from 9 lakh hectares, 8 to 9 lakh hectares is irrigated. But after that, if you see, it is gradually, the next slide, if you see, you see it is gradually declining from 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Now it is reached 2016, it is only 2 lakh hectares we are irrigating. So, but the rainfall, you see, it is the highest, 500. So, even you see in the 1960s 940, 942, 5 years average, 940 is the rainfall annual. But here it is 970. Rainfall is more, but area is less. This means rainfall is not at all a matter for decline of tank irrigation. There are several other factors. What are the factors that we will see in the coming slides? And simply in one slide, you see the 1960, the tanks are also increasing. These are not my data. This is government data. Government of Tamil Nadu season and crop report, various issues. This is the data for 10 years average. You see 35,000 to 40,000 tanks are also increased. But the area from 9 lakh to 5 lakh to 4 lakh, it is gradually decreasing. And rainfall, you see 466, 486, 87. The rainfall is increasing. Annual rainfall 940, 971, 957. So if you carefully go through these slides, the rainfall is not at all matter. The rainfall is increasing. But what is happening? Area under tank irrigation is declining. This is what visible from this. And this slide, if you see graph, 1980s up to 1970s, 80s, this net irrigated area by tank and annual rainfall both are equally merging. But after that, it is deviating. The rainfall is moving up and net irrigated area is coming down. So this much gap, the right side you can see in the down graph, this much gap is the reason why tank irrigation is not properly filled up. So this the government has to take steps. What kind of step the government has to take? That is what I have to suggest. Like our canal irrigation, this tank irrigation also we have to bifurcate the district into two. So in the 31 districts, the data is 2010 to 16, so 7 years average. What is happening in the first 14 districts? These are highly tank intensive districts, and the next 14 these type of district, next 14, 15, 16, 17 districts are less tank intensive districts. Especially in the last three, no tank can be seen. These are not tank irrigated, but canal irrigated. But we are not bothered about the down side and only upper side. What is the importance? You can see again net sown area this much, and net irrigated area by all source, and tank irrigated area. You see in these 14 districts, the 96% of the total tank irrigated area is available, and 81% of the total tanks are also available. So the government has to give preference for these 14 districts first to develop the tanks. Once all the tanks are made as 100% effective, then automatically this tank irrigation will come into prosper. So you see in 4 of the first districts, the 4 Pudukkottai, Sivagangai, Ramanathapuram and Kanchipuram. You see these are the highly tank intensive districts. So you see 5 by 3, 5 by 4 if you see, 59%, 74, 79%, column 7 if you see, this is nearly 50 to 75%, 80% of the area irrigated by tanks. And in the sixth column, column 4 by all sources to net sown area, this is also much important. And so in the 4 districts, this tank irrigation is much more intensive, and others are also equally important. So you have to give preference for developing these tanks. So our suggestion is take from first tank. Every district 1 or 2 years give preference for developing these all the tanks. How much tanks it is there? You can see 5,000 tanks. If you rehabilitate all the 5,000 tanks, you can achieve the total irrigated area of this tank. In Tamil Nadu, totally if you see, it is 41,000 tanks. You see 41,000 tanks. For that, the registered area is 1 million hectares, 10 lakh hectares. So now it is only 2 lakh hectares it is irrigated. So that is the pathetic situation. So canal irrigation is poorly performing, and tank irrigation is poorly performing. As a result, area, this is what I have to say here. You can see once again. You see, This is where this net zone area also decreasing from 55 to 48, and net irrigated area is not moving up from 21 to 28. It is very lesser amount increase. 7 lakh hectares in the 65-year period is not a big thing. But if you compare all India, it is boosting. So this is what we have to do in the Tamil Nadu context. And also in each state, if you consider, our irrigated agriculture, especially canal and tank, will improve. Now, the next thing we are talking about tanks, canals. Canals, you see, it is irrigated by rivers, canal irrigation, river-based, dam-based. And what is a tank irrigation? I'm little bit explaining this. This may be much more useful for your students, because nowadays education is a bigger thing. Education is bigger thing. So automatically we can give ideas for the students to develop this tank irrigation. So tank irrigation related research. So for that we have to understand I can show what is a tank. Tank may be system tank, non-system tanks, and rainfall tanks, whatever it may be. Now I am giving a bigger type of thing, system tank. What is a system tank? It is systematically connected through a irrigation source, not fully dependent upon the rainfall. That is what we have to see. In this picture, you can see the infrastructures of the tank. This is river. One is the river. Second is anaket. Third is inlet channel. Four is catchment area. Whatever rain comes, it will catch and automatically it will send it. And this 5 is tank foreshore area. 6 water spread area. 7 tank bend. 8 deep sluice, middle sluice, elevated sluice, and surplus weir. And 12 is outlet channel, big outlet channel, and branch channel, and field channel. And the next one is village boundary. This is the head reach village. This is middle reach village. This is tail reach village. In a bigger irrigation system, especially tank irrigation, is a system tank. These are the infrastructure you may see. And I am going to give you a better picture of how the tank irrigation is making a declining effort. With the help of 2 important system tanks, I will explain this. You see, we are showing river and anaket and a tank. The next thing automatically, this is the Palar River. You might have seen the Palar River, heard about that. There is one anaket. In this, there are 2 channels on the top side and 2 channels are bottom side. And it will branches in different manner. So this Palar anaket system serves 317 tanks. And also below which there is one Chayar River. There is Chayar anaket that also gives supply to the tail end big tank of Dusimamandu. This is Kaveri Pakam tank upper side, and the downside is Dusimamandu tank. Now we have studied these 2 tanks, Kaveri Pakam and Dusimamandu. To what extent tank irrigation is performed? Historically, we have studied in the 200 years ago what was the situation and what is the current situation. That is what I am going to explain in a clear manner. So this is, you can see, this is a single supply source. Only from this dam, this Palar anaket, directly one supply source is irrigated. And here it is triple supply source. This Palar anaket, here Rajakal head sluice, this also supplies. And there are 2 more branches that also supplying. And this Tandrai anaket also supplying. But the biggest problem is, before water coming to this Dusimamandu tank, so many tanks has to be filled up. Unless these tanks are filled up, this tank cannot get the water supply. So the location is important. This tank, every year when supply comes to Palar anaket, it is getting filled up. But this is not filled up because so many problems, and the supply channel 14-15 kilometers it has to come. So many things we have faced. So that we have to see in the next slides. Yes, this is Kaveri Pakam tank. That is what this one and this one I am going to explain. Kaveri Pakam and Dusimamandu in the next 2 slides. This is, you see, the picture of Kaveri Pakam tank. This is the bund. in the band there are 10 sluices. And in the 10 sluices irrigates 14 villages. We have taken 5 villages, 2 elevated villages. One is Kadaperi on the left side and Pannur on the right side. And 2 tail-end villages, Attipattu and Alapakam. And 1 deep sluice village, Kadaperi. So the sample is very carefully chosen to represent all types of tanks, typology. So that is what location of sluices, villages, selection of household survey. 216 households selected from the 2 tanks. This is what our survey. In each village, 24 farmers we selected for survey. So how it performs. So this is the Kaveri Pakam tank. And Dusimamandur, you see, this is 4 sluices. 2 elevated sluices, 2 deep sluices. Each set of elevated and 1 deep sluice serves 9 villages. Here also 4 villages. 2 head-rich villages. One is Narsamangalam and Vakai. These are head-rich villages. Another 2, Sodium Pakam and Punaitangal. These are the tail-end villages. So our idea is how head-rich villages are performing and how tail-end villages are performing. This is what the 2 bigger tanks study. And now one more important thing. This study was my PhD work. I did it the primary survey in 1990-91. So luckily I have got a project in 2016. Again I have gone after 27 years. What is happening in the 2 tanks? Now this is the result. How the tank irrigation has declined is clearly depicted from these slides. You can see from in this table you can see 1992 and 2017. What are the factors? This is more or less applicable for all over the 41,000 tanks in Tamil Nadu. I can generalize. There is no problem because that is why 1 million hectare, 10 lakh hectare has gone down to 2 lakh hectares. Even the bigger tanks are like that. There is no issue of the other type of tanks. So many are neglected. So that is what are the factors affecting for decline of tank irrigation other than rainfall. Rainfall is not a bigger problem that I have indicated already. The first major tanks are controlled by the PWD, that is Public Works Department. So what they are doing, you see the stopping of PAS, Polar Anicket system in 2016-17 when we have gone. 1992 already it is available in my thesis work. So I compare all those things. You see there are 12 section offices in 1992 and there are 117 members available in 1, 2, 3, 4 means junior engineer, assistant engineer, work inspector. This number denotes this. 3 is work inspector, 2, 4 is Laskar, irrigation assistant, 5 is technical assistant, and 6 is office assistant. So 6 categories of people were working for managing these tanks. The total strength is 117 persons in 1992. But in 2017, you see what has happened. In Chayar 1, Kanjipuram 1, and Sriperumbudur, these 3 section offices itself is merged with section 1, section 2, section Sriperumbudur, section 2. So totally 12 section offices to 9 is available. 3 were merged. And the number of persons available is only 58. 117 to 58. That is 50% stock is removed. That is automatically once retired, no filling. This is what happened. This is for structural change. This is for government level changes. Second is informal level village institutions, village organizations. How is it changes? You see Kaveri Pakam tank and Dusimamandur tank. We have seen the top 2 tanks. There, in order to manage the tank and the water distribution, there are 2 levels. One is supervisory level and the other one is lower level. Supervisory level consists of Natanmaikar, Kavai Maniam, delegates of irrigation board. And the lower level consists of Kamakuttis and Totis. In this, caste-wise, how much people were working in 1992 is shown. Here you see the total number is this much. And in the later period, in Dusimamandur also, if you see, that is Natanmai 38, Kavai Maniam 3, delegates of irrigation board 14. In lower level, Kamukutti is 23 and Kot is 20. The same manner in Dusimamandur, 31,357 members of the supervisory level and 1716 of lower level were working. But at my surprise, in 2017, when we went to again went to survey these villages, what is happening in the year 2017? There has not been any Natanmik or Kavai Maniam or Kamukutti Koti functioning. No person, no informal organization is existing. That is the situation. That is why the management of the tank is properly lacking and it is declining. This is one of the important points. This is for government level, this is for local village level. So another one, population, Ayakat subdivision and the patadars. How these three factors are influencing the decline of tank irrigation. You can see this 1881 is the settlement. First settlement were done by British people. This is settlement registers, we can get the data. And this is for updated settlement. This is for our survey data 2011. If you see, the population in Kaveri Pakam increased from 16,000 to 40,000, 47,000, 3 times increase. In the same manner, Dusimamandur, 7,000 to 24,000. It is also more than thrice it increased. And Ayakat subdivision, the land subdivision, it is 6,000 in 1882. Now it is 13,000. This is also more than twice. And in Dusimamandur, 8,000. You see, this is 8,000 to 15,000. So here also doubled. And the total patadars 2,000 in 1881 to 11,000 in 2000, because this is also 5 times increased. And Dusimamandur 1,500 to 7,800. So everywhere population, Ayakat subdivision, total patadars, all are automatically increasing, but no management, proper management is available. These are another type of problem. And this is much more important, caste-wise distribution. Now, currently, who are the landholders of the Ayakat? In the 2 big tanks, we have made survey 100 years ago, 1882, what is happening, and now currently what is happening in the more than 100-year period, how the land area is distributed. If we see, you see Mudaliyar, Nayakar, Brahmin, Reddy, Pillai, scheduled caste, others. These are the categories. So in 1882, and the same people in 2017, how it is distributed. If you see, in Kaveri Pakam tank, percentage distribution, 64% of Mudaliyars and 10% of Brahmins were handled the land in 1882. And what is happening in 2017? The 63% has gone down to 23% and 10% has gone to 1%. Mudaliyars and Brahmin, these are the top hierarchical caste people. These people's landholding is declined massive. And in the same manner, in Dusimamandur, 39% of the Mudaliyars and 46% of Brahmins owned the land. And this has declined to 11% of the Mudaliyars and less than 1% of Brahmins now they are holding. So who are the people cleaned the land? You see, Nayakars, 12.5% has gone to nearly 40%, and even for SCs, 1% to 15%. And Pillais also 3% to 11%. This is in Kaveri Pakam. And Dusimamandur, you see, this Nayakar from 3% to 60%. 3% has gone to 60%. That is what changed. And SCs from 1% to 18%. So these are the biggest change in the caste pattern. Caste pattern change, especially for landholding level. The top, previously there is a control over land, and now control over land and the big landlords having the control of the entire village and the entire population. And now all the landholders are thinking that they are the landholder, there is no doubt, but their landholding is very limited. Pick-me holding, marginal holding, that is what marginal holding, small holding. So all are having lands, they are not much more cooperative for maintenance of the channels and managing the supply. That is what getting problem. So these are the changes in the caste from upper caste to lower caste that also affect the smooth functioning of irrigation institutions at the tank level. This is also possible for canals also. And what are the major problems? You see, major problems reported in tank irrigation. Generally, you can see the available official statistics are inadequate. Now, we have seen there are 41,000 tanks, but every year we are seeing the tanks are still there. But the area irrigated is declining. How is it? Even for good rainfall year, it is decreasing. So we have doubtful against the government data. So that we have to make a survey. So no clear data on number of tanks and area irrigated. So third one, quantum of supply available each tank and the quantum of water distributed. In the bigger tank, especially you see in Mettur Dam and other Karnataka dams, now there is a good rainfall occurs in the Nilgiri, what we call in Kodagu district, and a lot of water supply is available in the Kaveri. So every day the people are calculating how much water comes to the dam and how much water it is released. But anywhere you have seen in the tank how much water each tank gets, how much water released, it is not. But it is there, where? The Chambrambakam tank in Tamil Nadu and Veeranam tank in Tamil Nadu, because it is for drinking water supply for Tamil Nadu. So they are calculating. This is what the very bad, pathetic situation. Whenever the government, it is required for a government, they are doing something, but it is required for agriculture purpose, they are not at all bothered. That is why Indian agriculture is stagnated. But it is improving wherever irrigated agriculture is performing. In the unirrigated, it is very, very poor performance. That is why suicide and other things are happening. So if we make a big change in the agriculture front, our growth will be very, very high and employment will also come up in a positive manner. That is what this point implies. And the development of well irrigation. Again, a question. We have seen canal irrigation is not poorly performed and tank irrigation is poorly performed. So both the sources are just managing. But well irrigation is fully getting supply from the surface sources. But it is also, people are telling that the bore water and the groundwater is declining. There is no doubt. But area irrigated by these well irrigation is the highest. That is what unbelievable. But how? Because these two surface sources are getting declined, then how this well irrigation is improving? That is my question. So this also affecting in the case of tank irrigation in the ICAT, farmers, those who are having wells, they are not cooperating for maintenance. So only non-well farmers are going maintenance over, and what is the biggest problem? So the local institution, especially water user association, should be made perfect, but this is not happening in Tamil Nadu also, in other states also. That is why this tank irrigation is getting declined. So poor functioning of irrigation institution, the well irrigation makes and the tricky point, that is what I informed, the why for the point is that all the wells get their supply either from rainfall wastewater sources. If so, why farmers and government and act upon cooperatively to maintain and manage the tank? This is still a question. This is not happening. That is why we are always seeing decline of tank irrigation. So in the case of tanks, we are coming to the final slide. There are three important factors. One is physical factor, that is location, sources of supply, siltation and weeds in the tank and supply channels, encroachments in supply channels, foreshore area, tank bed and the catchment area. And institutional factor, this problem is more severe in recent decades. Social factors, that is caste and class structure, economic factors, landholding pattern, demographic factors, population pressure on land, and political factors, poor attention, no policy change, lethargic attitude of politicians in many tank related aspects. So technical factor, conditions of water supply, drainage conditions, soil quality, the spread of well irrigation, and so on. So what is important? Most importantly, all these three sets of factors do not act in isolation, and all are interconnection among them. So which complicates the smooth functioning. So we have proved the point that irrigation alone is not, rainfall alone is not the matter, but there are several important factors, that is physical, institutional, and technical. All these are weakening this tank irrigation system, and also the canal irrigation system. It is more or less applicable. It is location specific. What shall we do? These are the things we have to carry out. Converting ponds into tanks, non-system tank into system tank, and survey of tanks. All technical details and basic details to be updated. And the groundwater banking. In each tank, how much groundwater is there and how it should be sustained. And restore capacity of tanks. In many tanks, the tank capacity is diminishing. So that has to be restored. So the geographical information system for tank improvement should be made up of. And the laws should be tightened. That I have to say in the next few slides. Government has enacting, but these laws are not applicable for direct use. That is why again and again problem is coming up. So to educate the farmers for the importance of tank maintenance, that is also very important, and this is not happening in many places. And the government's effort should be link the southern peninsula rivers first, and then these should be integrated to bigger tanks. Once these all irrigation systems, canal systems to be interlinked, that supply position, the higher supply, lower supply, deficit supply, all can be made perfect, and groundwater may be recharged very effectively, and borewells may be closed. Because if the water is available within 50 to 60 feet in all the open wells, so what is the need for going for borewells? That is the question. But for that, the surface irrigation systems, especially canals and tanks, should be developed. This is what I have to say. This is the sand removal government order. I can read: the public may be allowed to quarry free or bona fide domestic or agricultural purposes without obtaining permits for quarrying, provided that the dwelling place or the agricultural land of the person concerned and the quarrying place shall be in the same revenue village or in the adjoining revenue village. This means wherever tanks are there, in that locality, farmers can make use of the deposited silt for their land or any other household purpose without any payment. But this act is not at all implemented properly anywhere in Tamil Nadu, and even if it is implemented, it is not properly maintained. In some places, instead of digging 4 to 5 feet, they are doing 40 to 50 feet. That is why problem has come in. So the GOs are there, but it is not properly maintained, properly supervised. And this is another thing. This is for our Tamil Nadu government's GO relating to fisheries income. In big tanks, especially Kaveri Pakam tank, 2 years ago I went, the action amount of fish for 1 year, it is 1.25 crore, 125 lakh rupees per year. But what is the action amount? It is only 17 lakh rupees. Why? Especially for fishery people. There is one group, they have to get the amount. So these are the unwanted, but they are not using for this amount for tank maintenance purpose. So a lot of problems are there. And 50% of this fisheries amount should go to Farmers Association and 50% goes to government. But in the order, what happened, once the action is over, the 50% to be remitted to Water User Association account, that sentence is not there. So whatever amount comes, automatically government takes. So far, no tank has got 50% of the amount to Water User Associations. So mere GOs are there, but it is not properly implemented. And farmers are also unable to understand all those things. This is one of the very, very important government acts, Tamil Nadu Farmers Management of Irrigation System Act 2000. But this is still in act because of the two governments, DMK and ADMK government. This act is not properly implemented, and these two governments destroying the tanks, because this act was enacted by DMK government in 2000. 2001, ADMK has come. It is not at all interested to implement. Again, 5 years later, DMK government came, and again it is enacted, and farmers associations were built. And next, the ADMK government came, and also it is not practiced. And the elections were not at all held in the past 5 years. So as a result, these elected people who were elected in 2007 or 8, their period is over in 2013, no election is handled, and they are thinking they are the managers of the tank. But what is happened, the informal supervisory people that we have seen, Natanai, Kawai, Maniam, and Kamukuti, they are the informal people. Without government effort, they were functioning. Because of this government interference, the old traditional people were not interested to work. So the government people are not working, the traditional people are not working, so that tank is getting into disuse. This is the fact. Okay, these are the major things that I wanted to talk about irrigation water supply from canals and tanks. Now we can see, I think if the time permits, we can talk about in the next 15 minutes. Okay, our Satish?
Yes, sir.
Are you hearing?
Yes, bro. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Now I am going to talk about, other than agricultural water, drinking water use. So how the drinking water supply is managed in Tamil Nadu. Whatever I am talking about may be useful for in many other states or all other states of India, because this is based on the central GOs. So you have to think of, if you want to do research on this, you have to think in these directions. That will help you. So drinking water, I am giving a broader picture. For deep things, if possible, you can go to our reports. And just you can see in this slide, the population in Tamil Nadu, the population is 81 million, 8 crore. And in Chennai, it is 9.1 million. So what is happening? You see, the Tamil Nadu drinking water, for each person, average drinking water per day is 3 liters. So per year, this much days. So finally, what we required is 3.1 TMC drinking water is required for Tamil Nadu alone. And for Tamil Nadu, all purposes, 70 liters. Here I have to say one thing. The central government GO, as per constitution, in the urban areas like Chennai, Bangalore, or whatever it may be, Calcutta, Delhi, each person should be given 135 liters of water. And in the next level towns, it may be 90 liters per capita. And in the another level, it may be 70 liters. And at the village level, the village persons, each person should be given 40 liters per capita water daily. This is the constitutional norm. This is the first preference. Drinking water is the first preference, then only you can use for industrial or agriculture purpose. So that is why in the Supreme Court order, when 2 years ago, that Kaveri water disputes, some 14 TMC of water may be earmarked to Bangalore city. This water is from Tamil Nadu share. Nobody can question, because drinking water you have to take, then only the remaining water can be shared. So this is the norm. So that is why first preference is given. All people in this country should be getting enough supply. That is the norm that each government has to predict or specify and act. That is the thing. And in the case of, for all purpose, I am giving an average. Instead of 40, 70, 90, 135, I make an average of 70. So in Tamil Nadu, for all purposes, this is 73 TMC of water. This is merely at least some 75% of the Mettur Dam water supply is required for drinking water alone. In Chennai, you see, For 3 liters, it may be 0.4 TMC, and all purposes directly 135 liters per capita. It is for 15.8 TMC. Around 16 TMC of water is required. Now our capacity of reservoirs is 12 TMC, 11.2 TMC. This is what the present condition. Now, this is a very important and interesting combined water supply scheme projects. The NABARD has given us a project to evaluate how the performance is going on, how the drinking water supply is going on, and their performance need to be documented. For that, we have taken 4 places, 4 districts: Coimbatore, Madurai, Pudukkottai, and Virudhunagar. In these 4 districts, these combined water supply scheme projects were funded by NABARD. So the NABARD, I can tell one thing. This NABARD is the biggest organization, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. This is the subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of India. First one is the Reserve Bank. The next one is this NABARD. The NABARD is having its central office in Mumbai, and each branch office is located in each district, each state headquarters, like Chennai. So what is their main task? They are the money lenders of the government. That means whatever the amount required, it is for 100 crore or 1000 or even lakh crore is required. If the government is asking for different developmental purpose, immediately they can give the amount without any say. The state government's work is mainly to prepare a plan and submit. Immediately they will sanction based on their norms. How is it possible? This RA Rural Infrastructure Development Fund was created in 1995, around that. It is at that time only 2,000 crore funding it was opened. Now it is tremendous amount. It may be 2,60,000 crore is available. How is it possible? All because of improving this interest rate. In the sense, the government is giving whatever. For instance, Tamil Nadu government asked some 1 lakh crores for drinking water supply purpose for all over the state. So immediately 1 lakh crore is given. This may be given to this NABARD in 10 installment or 5 installment, or based on their agreement. The rate of interest is 6%. Every year, the government from their budget, on the budget allocation, directly that amount should be put forth to this NABARD. So automatically every year the fund, the installment fund plus this interest automatically goes to their account. The bank cannot go and ask. This is the basic procedure. So automatically once the amount is given, then you can get the amount with the interest within this installments. That is why 2,000 crore in 1995 has gone to 2,20,000 crores now. So whatever government asks, this NABARD is giving. So based on this, and once this is moving up, once the Reserve Bank is asking, you are always giving amount to the state governments, they are also repaying the amount as per the constitution, whether your amount given is giving any positive effect to the economy. So this is the tricky point where the NABARD is interested to evaluate the projects, evaluate their project. So they asked the premier institutions like us, you take 4 of the project and evaluate and give the report for us. That is why the project has came to us and we have done the job. What is the result of this job? Now is an interesting, very interesting thing that each state you can think of how the local government, state government is doing their business. The same thing is applicable to your states also. Now we can see in these 4 districts, that is Coimbatore, Madurai, Pudukkottai and Virudhunagar, what is happening. Here in Pudukkottai, 1751 rural habitations, this water supply, combined drinking water supply is going. And Coimbatore, 965 rural habitation, rural villages. The supply is given for this much village. And Madurai, 1,430 villages, rural habitations. And Virudhunagar, 637 rural habitation, what is given by this NABARD project. This is what combined water supply project. The round is main sources of water, surface water in 3 places. This is from Kaveri, this is Karur. Karur, Kulithalai nearby place, water is taken, and here Pudukkottai, nearby Kollidam place, water is taken. And surface water, this is for Coimbatore, Sirvani, you might have heard. This is surface water. This is groundwater from river, and this is surface water. Here, this one, Virudhunagar, Tamrabarani rivers gives the supply. This pipeline goes for 200-300 kilometers. That's the biggest pipelines. So how the system is working, you can see now. You see the project implementation. First, I can give you an example based on, then we can go to this slide. This is the river Kaveri. In one of the Kollidam place, we have taken an example for this. In this place, you see nearly half a kilometer inside of this Kaveri river, they have well about 70 to 80 feet depth open well is constructed. From that, the pipeline is, from that there are motors. How much motor? This is 150 horsepower motor, 3 motors are functioning. One is standby and 2 motors are functioning 22 hours per day to supply water to this. You see the pipeline. This pipeline goes 200 kilometers or 300 kilometers to supply water for 1751 Panchayat villages in Pudukkottai. You see, these are the 150 horsepower motor. One is standby. If it goes and another 2 works, and immediately within a week it will be repaired. That is what. And you see the pipeline, how it is going in the down picture. So this is what when the water is pumped, since it is Kaveri river, the water level is not going down because so much aquifer is there. This is what the thing. So now you can see the project implementation shows supply of water from main source to the sample Panchayat level, from the river to village drinking water. How it functions? The twelve board collection of infiltration well, a main source, and a collection sump, booster pumps, service reservoirs. This is the first step. And again distribution. You see in each Panchayat overhead tanks are there. From that syntax tanks water supply is given and the street pipes may be there. As I indicated initially, 40 liter per capita to villages should be given, and this is the norm. But this is not actually met through this because supply is inadequate, because so much of villages it has to be handled. As a result, what it is happening, wherever villages is there, in the groundwater, some amount of water is there. That water is also mingled with, combined with this rural water, combined with this combined water supply. So what is happening? This project water supply is 30 liter and the local water supply is 10 liter in Virudhunagar. Pudukkottai groundwater is little bit more in 3 blocks. So 20 liter is from this combined water and 20 liter local water. And in another 5 blocks, the water supply is poor, groundwater is poor. So 10 liter is taken through them and 30 liter from this combined water supply. And Madurai, 30 liter combined water supply and 10 liter groundwater. And Coimbatore, there is no groundwater. So 40 liter is given through this combined water supply. This is the method that the project is followed. You see how the water is distributed. You see, in after the final this water supply goes to village tank, again it is distributed through pipes. You see, street pipe, pit mode. This is the pit mode. Second type, twin taps. This is the one. And third, street pipe attached with syntax tanks. This is the one. These 2 people are fetching. And 4 street pipes, cluster of pipes attached with syntax tanks in common place. This is the one left side. So house connection with the pipe, Coimbatore 20% and 80% of sample households get water through the street pipes. So leakage and wastage commonly observed through this mode. So we have gone to the survey. what actually it is happening. We have take the snaps, and this is what. So the people should be inculcated the importance of water. You see how much distance water is coming, and they are wasting because they are not knowing. And also this should be used like a petrol, but they are not bothered because government is giving. How the government is giving, whether they are freely given, they are wasting a lot of not wasting, they are investing a lot of amount for getting this supply. So this is the status that drinking water is going into the villages. And what are our major findings? You can see what our report is saying. The adequacy of piped water supply in terms of 40 liters is ensured. Effectively, in some villages, even 40-45 liters are given. There is no doubt. Equity in the distribution of safe water is also adhered at habitation level. Because SCST and MBC and all sections are covered, and all are also getting water supply, no problem. Even small problem occurs, this may be solved by the local people. And the quality of supplied water is potable, capable of yielding both tangible and non-tangible socio-economic benefit to the rural area. This quality of water is not up to the expectation level because the local groundwater is also mixed with this combined water supply. So in some places wherever the groundwater quality is not good, automatically the quality of water is poor. So that is what people are expecting, bifurcation of these two water supply, but that also taken note of and the government is doing. And the wastages of drinking water arranged with the cost is concerned, demanding prudential operation management at Panchayat level. This is elaborately we have discussed, and this has to be reduced, wastages to be reduced in future. So in the long run, there is a good business potential for rural banking. So because each household is paying water charge, some amount, so that has to be gone to government through banks, and banks are also giving amount to government for managing this maintenance of this system. So banking sector also getting benefited because of this water supply. So two of the questions emerge from our survey is how to sustain the flow of social returns in terms of outcome from the project. That means if the water supply is not given, and the people have to go for fetching water a day at least. So this is happened weekly once, their income level is disturbed, so their social cost is also the mental problem, so many things are observed. So how it should be reduced and the sustainability of water supply to be maintained, that's still in a question. How to improve the operation and management at Panchayat and rural habitation level with an effective people's participation, particularly in the demand pull project like combined water supply in rural areas. Here, wherever we go, people are using the water supply, but they are not thinking how to reduce the wastage. Because it is a common supply, government is giving, they are doing this business. But how government is getting this supply after investing huge amount is not known to them. So that is why the problem comes. So what are our suggestions? So this is what. So the beneficiary side, what it should be, formation of users association on the lines of village water sanitation committees to be formed, involving self-help group, operation and maintenance activities of street pipes, regulation of water distribution, conduct of social audit. These are the important things we suggested. Blackboard, prudential planning for human resource for filling up of the vacancies as and when, because in many places the human power is lacking. So simply they are managing with 1 or 2 stops or temporary stop. That is not good. Re-estimation of the requirement of water, because in 2020 or 2030, how much water? Because population is constantly increasing, how it should be. The technology-based updated equipment for operation and maintenance activities we suggested. And corporate bodies, the PPP model, we have to village habitation adaptation for take care of drinking water. And Panchayat level, village development plan with the water security plan component, formation of village water committee to be formed. Monitoring local sources of water and advocacy for conjunct use of water. Proper maintenance of overhead tanks and street pipes are important. Promotion of solar-enabled pumping water. So, because of power supply failure, some of the villages are not properly getting water. So, in order to remove this, solar power energy may be enriched in some of the villages where people's participation is more. In the absence of elected people's representative, now village panchayat, the staff of village president, block officers need to involve NGO, SSGs for operation and maintenance. These operation and maintenance activities are the base that is not properly maintained, properly taken note of in many places. That leads to problems in management, whether in irrigation tanks or drinking water or whatever it may be, that you can also observe. And ensure supply of mandated 12 hours at panchayat level. This electricity board, sometimes power supply is interrupted. As a result, adequate water supply is not given. That is also a problem. What NABARD has to do, ensure submission of project completion report by TWAD within 6 months, because they are giving the funding. So they are not bothered finalizing and giving the report. So that we have directed within 6 months they have to give, and ensure all required data are given for further use, future use. So education department, this is one of the important. Arrange mandatory exposure visit to the students to the treatment plants for awareness on the values of drinking water and the involvement for maintenance of street pipes as extracurricular activities. Arranging traveling exhibits as done by Care Earth Trust and Science Gallery, Bangalore, partnered with the US Consulate General, Chennai. Because if the students are taking for a visit, then they know how much problems for drinking water and how much amount is spent for supplying this much water is known. Then automatically they will tell their families or the villagers that you should not waste the water. That will help for reducing these wastages. That is what the main point here. And the state and central government, what they have to do. District and block level water security planning and convergence of different development activities having common outcome. Incentives and award for best practices of water. In some villages, no water is wasted. So that should be developed all over places. And household connection, introduction of water tax now in Coimbatore. That also, once this is done, people can prudently use the water. In view of High Court order on wastage of water liable to be punished for causing wrongful loss of the state by booking them under Section 425. So this is also possible, but this has to be inculcated to the people first. That is what we have advocated. So convergence of schemes having common outcome. So several schemes are going on without any merging or without any interconnection. That should be connected with all schemes. Then only it should be made the required effect. So earlier conducted panchayat election would enhance more local people's participation towards cost-effective implementation of combined water supply scheme at habitation level. So earlier conduct of the panchayat election would be now it is conducted. So within the next 1 year time, all panchayat may be effectively made functioning. This is what at the best of drinking water supply is happening. From my point, it may be 50 to 75% it is effectively managed, but 100% still not. That requires a lot of involvement of people and NGOs or all people concerned. Thank you very much. You can ask questions, whatever it may be, based on this presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sivasubramanian, for a wonderful presentation. It is not for the, simply for the words. It is, really a very insightful research work that we can see from, the lot of data and the insights what you derived is really very much, useful for the entire participants today. So throughout the session, actually, we received a lot of positive comments and feedbacks on this particular session. So let me take a few questions here. We'll be taking a few questions here. Those who are interested to ask few questions, you can put it in the chat box or you raise your hand. I'll be allowing unmute you and you can go ahead. Dr. Gopal Singh, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Thank you, Subramanian, sir, for your wonderful presentation. I remembered Swaminathan because only the best brains from MIDS can present such a research article. I also thank the organizers for such a presentation. Sir, the data that you have given, 1888 to 2019, says that the percentage of land shared by these Reddies and Pillai has come down in 2017 as per the data. It's okay, this Mudaliars and others who are dominating